Having financial goals is so important because it gives you something to aim for, and it tells you where you need to focus your attention. But what are the best financial goals? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video. Welcome to the channel. Now, the way that I like to think of this is if you had 24 hours in the day and you had to use those hours wisely because they were all valuable, you have to decide what you're going to spend them on. Well, the same thing applies with your money. Every single dollar that comes in or goes out has to be accounted for, and so having these really good financial goals can help you get control of where that money is going. Now, there are some different categories that I like to look at when setting my financial goals. The first is income. Now, the reason that I put income first on the list is because if you don't have enough income coming in, then all the other stuff doesn't matter. It's kind of like the foundation of a house. If the foundation isn't strong, then the rest of the house is just going to fall apart. So when it comes to your income, here are 3 specific examples of financial goals that you could set. The first is just to calculate how much you actually need. Now, I know this sounds really obvious, but you would be surprised at how many people don't do this. They just work for the sake of working, or they make choices throughout their life without thinking through what they actually need. So take some time and figure out how much income you actually need to live the lifestyle that you want. Remember, this includes everything, not just your housing, food, utilities, and things like that, but also things like vacations and new clothes and eating out. All of that needs to be taken into account. The second financial goal that you can set when it comes to income is to figure out how much you need to save and invest. Now, personally, I like to save and invest 20% of my income. This is pretty standard across most financial advice. And so something that you can do is say, okay, I'm going to figure out how much I need to live the lifestyle that I want. Let's just say that number is $40,000 a year. And then from there, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to try to save and invest 20% of that $40,000. The third financial goal that you can set when it comes to income is to actually increase it. Now, you can do this by either asking for a raise at your current job, or by starting a side hustle, or by transitioning into a new career altogether. Whatever you decide to do, the key is to actually make a plan for it and then execute on that plan. It's not enough to just say, I want to make more money. You actually have to take steps to make that happen. Another category that I like to look at when setting financial goals is expenses. Now, expenses are essentially everything that you spend money on, and so one of the best financial goals that you can set when it comes to expenses is to simply track them. Now, there are a ton of different apps that you can use to do this. Personally, I like to use a specific app because it's really easy to use. All you have to do is connect it to your bank account, and then it automatically tracks all of your spending for you. Once you've connected it to your bank account, you can start to see your spending patterns emerge, and you can start to see where your money is actually going. And after you've tracked your spending for a while, you can start to cut back on the things that you don't really need. Maybe you're spending too much money on dining out, or maybe you're buying too many clothes. Whatever it is, you want to start cutting back on those things so that you can save more money and invest more money. And that leads me to the next financial goal that you can set when it comes to expenses, which is to actually decrease them. Now, you can do this by cutting back on the things that you don't really need, but also by negotiating your bills. For example, I was able to negotiate my car insurance down by calling around to different companies and getting quotes from them. I was able to negotiate my cell phone bill down by calling my provider and threatening to switch to a different provider. You can do the same thing with your internet bill, your cable bill, your rent, and so on. So just keep in mind that everything is negotiable. You just have to be willing to put in the time and effort to do it. Another great financial goal when it comes to expenses is to automate your savings. Now, what I mean by this is you can set up automatic withdrawals from your checking account to your savings account or your investment account. That way, before you even have a chance to spend the money, it's already invested and you don't have to think about it. Next, let's talk about debt. Now, debt can be a really tricky thing. It's basically money that you owe to somebody else, And if you have high interest rate debt, it can be really hard to get out of. For example, credit card debt typically has interest rates of 20% or higher, and so if you have a lot of credit card debt, it can be really hard to pay off. On the other hand, if you have low interest rate debt, like the debt that you might have from a car loan or a mortgage, it can be a little bit easier to pay off. But regardless of what type of debt you have, it's still important to set financial goals when it comes to debt. One of the best financial goals that you can set when it comes to debt is to simply pay it off as quickly as possible. Now, you can do this by making extra payments each month. For example, if you have a credit card with a balance of $1,000 and an interest rate of 20%, you could pay off the entire balance in about 2 years by making an extra payment of $65 each month. Or, if you have a mortgage with a balance of $200,000, you could pay it off in 25 years instead of 30 years by making an extra payment of $73 each month. Another great financial goal when it comes to debt is to avoid it altogether. Now, this can be a little bit difficult, especially if you're trying to build your credit, but the best way to avoid debt is to simply live within your means. If you spend less money than you make, then you won't have to borrow money from anybody else. You'll be able to save up and buy the things that you want over time. Finally, let's talk about investing. Now, investing is essentially putting your money into something with the expectation that it will grow over time. For example, you might invest your money in stocks, bonds, real estate, or a business. When it comes to investing, one of the best financial goals that you can set is to simply start. Now, you don't have to invest a lot of money to start seeing results. In fact, if you just invest $50 a month in stock market, assuming an average annual return of 8%, you'll have over $1 million by the time you're 65 years old. Of course, this assumes that you're also taking advantage of any employer matching contributions that they might offer. Another great financial goal when it comes to investing is to diversify. Diversification simply means that you're investing in a variety of different assets. This can help you reduce your risk because if one asset class is doing poorly, then hopefully another asset class is doing well. Personally, I like to diversify my investments across 3 main asset classes: stocks, real estate, and crypto. Within each of those asset classes, I like to further diversify by investing in a variety of different funds. For example, I invest in a total stock market index fund, a total international index fund, a real estate investment trust, and a cryptocurrency index fund. That way, if one of those funds performs poorly, then hopefully the others will perform well. By the way, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please leave a comment below to let me know what you thought. I would love to hear your thoughts, and also consider subscribing to the channel because I post new videos every single week. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, I will see you later.